Alright, hey everyone out there in Guitar Land, Mike Heading here. I've got another beginner lesson for you today. This time we're going to talk about basic strumming patterns for your right hand. So we looked at our left hand in the last lesson. Now we're going to look at what some basic strumming patterns we can use. We're going to go over the pick-strum technique, very basic strumming pattern that you can use in country, bluegrass, folk. Absolutely critical, fundamental skills that you got to know to advance to more complex strumming patterns. Alright, I'm going to break the whole thing down. Alright, here it is. Now that we've got some of the basic chords down, let's look at some basic strumming patterns. If you're still working on your basic chords, I'd recommend checking out the lesson I did previous to this, basic guitar chords. So check that one out first. We're going to go over all those chords in that lesson. I'm going to assume that you know those chords for this lesson. In this lesson, we're not going to focus on our left hand as much. We're going to focus on our right hand, so our strumming hand. So we're going to get some basic strumming patterns that will work, that we can use to practice those 2-finger and 3-finger chords. So the most basic pattern that I like to teach students is I call the pick-strum. Let's do our 2-finger A chord that we were doing in that last lesson. So just a simple A. And you're going to pick one of the strings, so pick, and then you're going to strum. And then you're going to pick and strum. And it doesn't matter what string at first you pick, and I'll show you which ones you can, but just good practice is just pick a string to pick. You can even move down the strings. That'd be good practice for your accuracy. Pick, strum, pick, strum, pick. Normally you usually do the picks on the lower strings. But just to practice your accuracy, you can move around. The other thing I'd recommend is make sure you're getting a lot of the weight of your wrist pushing through the strumming. I use a floating wrist myself because I come from a mandolin background. Some people will plant their fingers and that works really well for them too. But what you want to do is make sure you're not putting all that pressure on one of your fingers, like that. Make sure you're using the weight of your wrist to drive through that strum. You'll just get so much more tone and volume with so much less effort. So that's really important. Keep your wrist really loose. I'm not using my forearm to do those strums. You're going to get really tired if you do that. Make sure you're using the weight of your wrist and keep a really loose wrist. So I'm just doing that pick strum. The other thing you want to notice is how far you're going down. Obviously, the farther you go down here, the farther you got to come back up. So don't do, unless you're trying to do like a windmill rock star strum, don't go too far down either, You don't really need to go past the pick guard or even past the strings, Let's try and go to our E minor and do that pick strum. Doesn't matter what string you pick, just pick one and just keep doing that pick strum. Pick strum. Back to A. What's great about the pick strum is you can actually pick one of the open notes, and that actually gives you time to get to your next chord. So let's say I'm on my E minor. I'll do it really slow. And I'm going to go back to my A. So I can actually pick one of the strings, and that actually gives me time to put my chord down. So I'm using that pick on an open string to basically give me time to move my hand. See that? I'll kind of exaggerate it. So I have plenty of time to move my hand when again, you have to get your two hands operating independently, which is really tough. That's really the hardest part I always say about playing music. When your left hand starts changing, your right hand is going to want to change. And that's why you're practicing keeping that pick strum really consistent. Let's try and do it on a G chord. So let's see, you could do a 4-finger G or a 2-finger, whatever you want, 3-finger G. I'm going to do the 4-finger, just keep it kind of bluegrassy. Another one you can do is a pick, and then you do the strum, and then you catch the strings on the way up. So you got pick and then strum down up. It's actually the same exact motion and timing. The only difference is I'm choosing to grab the strings on the way up, whereas if just doing the down version, my hand's coming up, I'm just missing the strings. So basically my hand's doing the same motion, I'm I'm just choosing to grab the strings on the way up. Everything else is exactly the same. Let's try and go to C. So it doesn't matter if you do the strum down or strum down up, it's the same timing. G. So for this exercise, again, focus on one hand at a time. So if we're working on our strumming hand, be a little forgiving with your left hand. If you don't get back to the chord or you hit a wrong note, you know, let's say I miss my G, you know, I go one fret too low, let's say, just for example. What we want to work on there is just keeping our right hand doing that pattern regardless of whatever our left hand's doing. And that's what's really tough is when your left hand makes a mistake, your natural intuition is for your right hand to stop. And what we actually need is our right hand to keep moving. It's totally counterintuitive. We need our right hand to keep moving. It's actually going to cover our tracks. And that's really tricky is when your left hand screws up, if you miss a chord, you know, your right hand's going to want to stop. But what we need our right hand to keep the beat, and then I can make the adjustment with my left hand. My right hand's going to cover my tracks, and that's really challenging. But that's what you got to practice is, again, getting our two hands to operate independently. So just do that pick strum over and over again. The way you count that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you're doing the down ups, it's 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. I mean, if you even want, you could even just mute the left hand like I was just doing and just practice your strumming. You know, not very musical, obviously, but if you just want to focus on that, it's good practice. Okay? Let's do it one more time. Let's do the G, C, D progression. So we got G. Let's go to C. What I did there too, I noticed, is going from C to D, I use my open strings again like we were talking about. So I hit my C. Now I'm going to hit an open string. You know, you could hit the 4th string or the 5th string, really. Either one would be okay. You're just using that to buy yourself a little extra time. So I'm going from this C, open string. See how that gives me time to move my hand? And yeah, do the 2 finger if you need to. The other thing I'll do, back to what we were talking about in the last lesson with the 2 finger chords, is a lot of times I'll get my 2 fingers down first, and then my other fingers will kind of fall into place. I'll do that a lot with the D. For example, you know, I'll put my 2 finger D down, and then, you know, once I got that kind of anchored, then I'll kind of, my last step is putting down my 3rd finger. So I'll do that with the G a lot too. You'll see from going from D to G, my 2nd finger kind of leads it. I get that one down, so now I can do my pick strum, and then my other fingers kind of fall into place. You know, if you just try and move all 4 at once, it's really challenging. I kind of think of it as a step-by-step process. So I get that one down, then this one moves, then that last one falls into place. You know, if you think of it in terms of like a quick 1, 2, 3 thing, where you're moving them one at a time, it's actually easier to kind of coordinate the movements. All right, so practice that pick strum. You can't get too much practice with that. It's really basic, fundamental stuff. It works really good for bluegrass, country, folk. A lot of different styles of music will use that basic strumming. Really good pattern to know. All right, hopefully that helps you out. Good luck.